A few years ago, I was driving through downtown San Diego and I saw something that did not make any sense. On one side of the street, office towers stood almost empty. Floor after floor of dark windows, hundreds of thousands of square feet of space that nobody was using. And on the sidewalks below those same buildings, people were sleeping in tents. Veterans, families. I remember sitting at a red light asking myself one question. Why are thousands of people sleeping outside while hundreds of thousands of square feet sit empty right above their heads? That question changed my life. Welcome to the world of Eve Pacific. I'm your guide to the AI evolution, Noble Woods III. Today, I'm telling you the story of how Elysian Shores Supportive Housing began. Not the polished version, the real one with the crazy idea, the impossible math, and a twist at the end that almost stopped everything. And here's the part I want you to hold on to as we go. Before this episode is over, the federal government says yes to the crazy idea. But that yes turned out to be something completely different than I expected. Stay with me. Let me tell you who I was before any of this existed, because it matters that I was nobody's idea of a housing developer. I was not a developer. I was not an architect, not a politician, and definitely not a housing expert. I was an insurance adjuster, a Marine Corps veteran, sober 27 years, with an MBA and a stubborn habit of asking questions that would not leave me alone. In March of 2025, this idea did not even have the name Elysian Shores. It was called Noble's Eve, and it was not a nonprofit, and it was not a real estate play. It was one person trying to solve a problem that everyone else had learned to drive past. I started looking at specific buildings. 600 B Street, 530 B Street, the old city operations building, distressed office towers sitting in the heart of downtown like unanswered questions. I did not know exactly what I was going to do with them yet. I just knew that empty space plus people without homes should equal something better than what we had. Then I found the concept that broke my brain wide open. It's called adaptive reuse. Taking a building that was designed for one purpose and giving it a completely new life. Now, I'm not going to teach you the whole playbook today. That's not what this episode is. What I want you to understand is what it felt like to discover it. Because when I found adaptive reuse, everything changed. Suddenly, those dark towers were not failures. They were unfinished sentences. Think about what an office tower already is. It has bones, structure, elevators, plumbing, fire stairs, a roof that doesn't leak. Around the country, hotels have become apartments. Warehouses have become lofts. Old department stores have become housing, and by some estimates, adaptive reuse can save 40 to 60% compared to building from the ground up. But honestly, it was not the math that got me. It was the picture in my head. A veteran walking into a lobby that used to belong to a bank, riding an elevator that used to carry executives, opening a door on the 9th floor and calling it home. Once I saw that picture, I could not unsee it. Now here's where the story gets crazy. Because I did not think small. I did not start with a duplex. I did not start with a modest 10-unit rehab the way a sensible person probably would. The first real vision was one entire office tower in downtown San Diego, nearly 200,000 square feet, roughly 200 units of supportive housing for veterans, with whole floors dedicated to services at a total cost north of $100 million. One person, no track record, no institutional backing, a 9-figure dream sketched out by an insurance adjuster. Looking back, it sounds ridiculous. I know it does. Believe me, I can laugh about it now. But here is the truth I have learned since then. If I had dreamed smaller, I never would have gotten into the rooms I eventually walked into. Nobody opens the door for a modest idea. They open the door for a vision big enough to matter. The size of the dream determined the size of the doors. Remember that line, because you're going to watch it come true in a few minutes. Of course, there was one small problem with my enormous vision. I knew almost nothing about how to actually build it. So I went back to school, not a classroom, The school of asking questions until people got tired of hearing from me. I had to learn real estate development, how deals get structured, what feasibility really means, why a building that looks like a bargain can be the most expensive thing you ever touch. I had to learn affordable housing, finance, tax credits, vouchers, grants, capital stacks, an entire alphabet soup I had never tasted in my life. I had to learn nonprofit law, articles of incorporation, boards of directors, public charity status, all of it. And then I had to learn government itself, how cities actually decide things, who really holds the pen, and how long everything truly takes. My method was simple: meet organization after organization, ask honest questions, and never, ever pretend to know something I did not know. That last part matters more than people think. Faking expertise closes doors quietly. Admitting what you don't know opens them. And then something happened that I still find remarkable. The doors started opening. I'm not going to name individuals here because this story is not about name dropping. But I will tell you the categories, because the categories tell you what's possible for an ordinary person with an oversized idea. City government took the meeting. Planning officials took the meeting. Housing organizations took the meeting. Downtown leadership, affordable housing professionals with decades of experience, people whose calendars I had absolutely no business being on. At one point, I sent a full adaptive reuse proposal for that downtown tower to city and county political offices. Picture that for a second. An insurance adjuster mailing a nine-figure housing plan to elected leadership. And here's the profound part. Nobody cared that I did not know everything. They cared that the vision was big enough. They cared that somebody was finally asking out loud the question they had all been quietly asking themselves. If you take one lesson from this episode, take that one. You do not need permission to be in the room. You need a vision worth the room's time. But a vision is not an institution. By the fall of 2025, the crazy idea needed to become something real, something with a legal spine. So we made it official. In November 2025, we filed articles of incorporation, and Elysian Shores Supportive Housing became a California nonprofit public benefit corporation. We seated a founding board. We received our federal employer identification number. Piece by piece, the dream was getting paperwork. Then came the big one, the application for 501c3 status. That is the federal recognition that turns a group of believers into a public charity that can receive tax-deductible donations and apply for serious grants. Everybody told me the same thing. Get comfortable, because this takes forever. Some organizations wait 6 months. Some wait more than a year. So we spent the winter preparing. And I will be honest with you, that stretch was one of the hardest parts of this entire journey. Months where it felt like nothing was happening. The vision was fully alive in my head and almost invisible on paper. There were nights I wondered if the whole thing was just an elaborate way of talking to myself. We filed IRS Form 1023 on February 8, 2026. 5 days later, it was approved. 5 days. February 13, 2026. Determination letter in hand. Public charity status confirmed, effective all the way back to the day we formed. I sat with that letter for a long time, all those months of waiting and doubting, and the answer came back in less than a week. It felt like the finish line. Hold that thought, because if this were a movie, this is where the music would swell. Nonprofit approved, vision validated, roll credits, start construction. That is not what happened. A few weeks into celebrating, I ran into a wall I had never seen coming. We still could not build. Let me explain, because this is the part nobody tells you when you start a nonprofit. A 501c3 letter proves you are legitimate. It does not prove you are capable. We were a brand new organization. No development track record. No completed projects. No institutional credibility with the lenders, the agencies, and the funders who decide which buildings actually rise out of the ground. Early in this journey, a construction industry veteran had warned me that office to housing conversion is one of the hardest things you can attempt on the construction side and on the cost side. I heard him when he said it, but I did not fully understand him until I was standing there holding a federal approval letter that could not pour a single yard of concrete. I had solved one problem, and solving it revealed a much bigger one underneath. Nobody hands a 9-figure building to a first-timer. No matter how good the letter looks, no matter how big the dream is. So there I was, real nonprofit, real approval, real vision, and no way to build it alone. I thought getting the nonprofit approved was the finish line. It turned out to be the starting line. Here's what I did not know yet. Standing there with that letter, the answer to the credibility problem already existed out in the world, in the form of experienced development partners who had spent decades building exactly what we were dreaming about. Finding them, getting their attention, and earning a seat at their table. That is a story all by itself, and it is the next chapter of this journey. That's episode 3. Finding the development partner that could make it real. If you're following this story, do one thing for me right now. Subscribe to the channel, because the next episode is where the crazy idea starts meeting the people who could actually build it, and I want you in the room when it happens. And if this episode sounded familiar, if there's a dream you've been driving past in your own life, share this with one person who needs to hear it today. Until next time, keep innovating, keep adapting, and above all, keep evolving.